Welcome to While We Were Distracted, the podcast where we explore topics that often get overshadowed in the rush of daily life.
All right, so get ready because today we are diving into some seriously mind-bending stuff. We're talking about a book that claims to rewrite human history, like completely.
It's not just like a little tweak here and there. It's a whole new origin story. It's The Secret Doctrine, Volume 2, Anthropogenesis.
So are we saying goodbye to Darwin and all those fossils?
In a way, yeah. This book says forget what you think you know. This book is basing its alternate history on 12 ancient stanzas, and these stanzas supposedly hold the real key to how humans came to be.
Okay, 12 cryptic stanzas. Sounds like a challenge. So why do we even begin to unpatch that?
Well, the stanzas outline this really complex system of cosmology and human evolution. And get this, it all revolves around something called root races.
Root races. Okay, you're going to have to explain that one.
So imagine human evolution not as just one straight line, from point A to point B, but instead imagine it as like distinct phases, like chapters in the human story. And each root race has its own unique characteristics and a specific purpose in the grand scheme of things.
So instead of a family tree, it's more like, I don't know, a choose-your-own-adventure book.
Exactly. And let me tell you, some of these chapters get pretty wild. Like there's this root race called the Sweatborn. And the book says they literally emerged from, well, sweat.
Sweatborn. Okay, that is both fascinating and kind of gross. I'm intrigued, but I need to know more about this first fall that keeps popping up. What exactly fell and where did it land?
That's where this idea comes, and that humanity wasn't always how it is now. Like we've fallen from a previous, more evolved, you could say, state, maybe more spiritually advanced.
Okay, yeah, we need to dig into those root races and the first fall for sure. But first, let's tackle some of those stanzas. What's the first one all about?
So the first stanza, it's called Beginnings of Sentient Life, and it takes us way, way back, like before humans as we know them even existed. It's describing this primordial state where consciousness was just starting to, emerge.
So we're not even talking cavemen here. We're talking before that.
Oh yeah, way before. It's like the cosmic setup before any of the physical forms we know, even existed. It describes those fundamental forces, the principles at play in the universe that eventually led to, well, life as we know it.
Okay, big picture stuff. Got it. What about stanza number 2?
So stanza second, the title is Nature Unaided Fails. And basically it's saying that the typical way we understand evolution, well, it's not the whole story.
Okay, so the book's saying evolution isn't enough to explain humans.
Right. It argues that material processes, like natural selection, they can't completely explain the complexity of human beings. There had to be, something more at work, something beyond the physical.
All right, I'm sending a pushback against mainstream science here. So if nature couldn't do it alone, what did?
Well, that's where stanza 7 comes in. It's called From the Semi-Divine Down to the First Human Races. And it introduces this concept of semi-divine beings who actually played a role in, like, guiding human development.
Hold on, semi-divine beings? Are we talking like gods now?
Not gods exactly, but think of them as, like, highly evolved beings. Almost like, cosmic mentors who kind of nudged humanity along.
So like cosmic teachers shaping our earliest ancestors, did they just like pop in for a quick lesson and disappear?
Not quite. Stanza 12, the fifth race and its divine instructors. This one suggests that these instructors, well, they stuck around. And actually, they might still be guiding us today.
Wait, the fifth race? Is that saying that we're the fifth race?
Exactly. That's what it says. And that's where things get super interesting. Because if we're the fifth, well, who were the other four? And what happened to them? And if we're still being guided, I mean, what does that mean for the future?
It's a lot to think about. Like, a lot. This book could really turn someone's whole worldview upside down. It's like looking at history through a totally different lens. Okay, so we've got these root races, we've got the first fall from a more advanced state, and then we've got these mysterious instructors guiding humanity along the way. It's a lot, but this book doesn't stop there, does it?
Yep, not even close. The Secret Doctrine actually argues that lots of world religions, like the ones we know today, well, they've encoded this secret knowledge. It's like they're speaking in symbols, almost like a hidden code.
So is the book saying it's like these religions have a secret message and the secret doctrine gives us the key to unlock it?
Exactly. It dives into all these symbolic interpretations of stories and figures that we might think we know. But it's suggesting they have these deeper meanings, ones that connect back to those ancient teachings.
All right, you got to give me some examples here. What kind of hidden meanings are we talking about?
Okay, we'll take the story of Adam and Eve. I mean, we all know the basic story, right? But the Secret Doctrine suggests that Adam, or sometimes it's called Adami, well, it says it represents something much bigger. Like Adam is a symbol for a specific stage in human evolution, not just like, the first human guy.
So Adam isn't just a guy hanging out in the garden. He's like a symbol for something way deeper. What about those fallen angels we hear about? Is the book saying they weren't actually angels?
That's one way to look at it. It really pushes us to rethink these traditional interpretations. It explores different ways of understanding fallen angels, like maybe they represent something else entirely. Remember, the book really wants us to challenge those old interpretations and see things in a totally new way.
Okay, so we're not taking those stories literally. We're looking for deeper layers of meaning. And it's not just Judeo-Christian traditions, right? I mean, does the book look at other religions too?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It draws these connections across all kinds of cultures and time periods. Like, for example, it connects that Greek myth, Prometheus, the one who brings fire. Well, it links him back to these ancient Indian traditions. It's like tracing those threads of ancient wisdom that have woven their way into all these different cultures over time.
So we've got these hidden meanings in religious stories. We've got connections between different traditions. What else is there?
Well, there's a whole chapter dedicated to Yahweh and Jehovah. Those names, they're super mystical, and people have been debating what they mean for centuries, right? And of course, no deep dive into esoteric knowledge would be complete without talking about the symbolism of, the cross and the circle.
Classic mystical symbols. What kind of interpretations does the book give for those?
Well, it goes way beyond just seeing them as like religious icons. The Secret Doctrine interprets these symbols as representing like these deeper cosmological principles, the actual forces that are shaping reality. It's pretty mind-blowing stuff.
And what about the significance of the number 7? I mean, that number is everywhere, right? 7 days of creation, the 7 chakras, the 7 deadly sins. What's the deal with that?
The book has a whole section just on that. It's called The Mysteries of the Hebdomad, and it explores why the number 7 is so important. And not just in one culture. It looks at the Vedas, Egyptian mythology, astronomy, even magic. It really makes you wonder why this number pops up everywhere, right?
Okay, so we've got secret knowledge hidden in religions, we've got symbolic interpretations, we've got mystical numbers. It's like the secret doctrine is revealing this whole hidden layer of human history, a secret spiritual history. But how does any of them line up with modern science? Does the book even address that?
Oh, it does. And you probably won't be surprised to hear it's pretty critical of how science explains things like human evolution. It has a whole section where it contrasts its ideas with what it calls like modern anthropology.
Oh boy, I can feel the tension already. Where does the secret doctrine disagree with mainstream science?
One of the big sticking points is, well, how do we interpret the fossil record? Especially when it comes to that supposed link between humans and apes.
Is the book saying we didn't evolve from apes? If not, where did we come from?
Well, it's not totally denying evolution, but it really pushes back against that traditional timeline and that idea that, we're directly descended from the apes we see today. It's saying there's got to be a more complicated explanation, that there's more to the story of human ancestry than we currently get.
So a different timeline, different ancestors. Anything else? Are there any other major disagreements?
Yeah, the book also disagrees with how scientists figure out the length of those geological periods, and the age of humanity. It says those timelines are way off and that we need to rethink how long humans have actually been around.
So we're talking about a much, much older human history. That's a pretty bold statement.
It is. And to support this claim, it introduces some of its own theories. It talks about these things called organic evolution and creative centers. And there's this other thing called esoteric phylogenies. Basically, it's getting into the spiritual side of human evolution.
Okay, that sounds pretty complex, but also super interesting. Is there anything else along those lines?
Yeah, well, the book also talks about, get this, giants, civilizations, and submerged continents. It's like offering esoteric explanations for those myths and legends that we all know.
Wait, hold on. Giants? Like Jack and the Beanstalk giants?
Not exactly like those storybook giants, but the book explores this idea that there were once, like, races of humans who were way bigger than us. And it links that to the idea of lost civilizations, like Atlantis and Lemuria, those places that everyone's so fascinated by.
For a book that's over 100 years old, The Secret Doctrine feels pretty relevant to a lot of the things people are talking about today. People are still fascinated by ancient mysteries, lost civilizations, and that idea that there's got to be more to human history than we've been taught.
Totally. And, The Secret Doctrine gives us this unique and really challenging perspective on all those topics. It encourages us to question, like, what do we think we know? What if there's this bigger, more mysterious story happening behind the scenes?
So what do you think? Does any of this resonate with you? Does it challenge what you thought before?
Oh, it definitely makes you think outside the box. What I think is most interesting is how it connects all of these different ideas, right? Science, religion, mythology, it's all connected. And it gives us this whole other framework for understanding human history, for understanding ourselves.
It's like weaving all these different threads into one big tapestry. And it's not just about the past either. That idea, that we're the 5th root race, that implies there's something coming next. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, like, what's next, right? What's the next chapter? If we're the fifth root race, does that mean there's going to be a sixth? What would that even look like?
It definitely gets the imagination going. Would it be like a slow change or something, more sudden and dramatic? And what about those divine instructors? What part do they play in all this?
Speaking of those instructors, the book mentions that, they've been guiding humanity all along. Do you think they're still around?
Maybe like getting us ready for what's to come?
That's a good question, right? It's one of those mysteries the book kind of leaves us with. It definitely hints at things that are, beyond what we can really grasp right now. Forces that could be shaping our destiny, the whole destiny of humanity.
So where does all of this leave us? We've talked about root races, the first fall, those mysterious divine instructors, the secret knowledge hidden in religions, and, a whole different way of looking at science. It's a lot to absorb.
It really is. But I think if we try to sum it all up, the main point of A Secret Doctrine, Volume 2, Anthropogenesis, is that there's more to being human than we realize. It's like an invitation to look beyond, just the material world, to consider that maybe we're part of this much larger cosmic evolution of consciousness.
It's like it's asking us to, I don't know, think bigger, to question everything we've been told and really, just embrace the mystery of it all. And even if we don't agree with every single thing in the book, it definitely makes you think.
For sure. And that's what makes it so powerful. And, why people are still reading it over 100 years later. It makes you curious, it challenges you, and honestly, it leaves you with more questions than answers.
But maybe that's not a bad thing, right? Sometimes the best adventures are the ones that make you ask better questions.
Totally agree. It's about opening ourselves up to, what else might be possible, and realizing that how we understand the world, it's always changing.
So for everyone listening, we'll leave you with this. If we are this fifth root race, right on the edge of something new, what choices are we going to make? What will our legacy be? What will that sixth root race, inherit from us?
Those are some big questions, and maybe that's the most important thing to take away from the Secret Doctrine. It's not just about uncovering some secret history. It's about realizing that we're part of shaping the future, the future of humanity, maybe even the future of consciousness itself.
It's a call to action, I think, to really participate in our own evolution, to make conscious choices.
Don't forget to like and subscribe for the next episode on While We Were Distracted.